Hello and welcome along to this, the 11th episode of the DePIN Coffee Hour. A very special episode today because I'm joined with all of the founders of Hevelo. But first of all, did you know that you can get 88% APY on our staking if you stake your HVLO tokens today at staking.hevelo.com? Not financial advice, but not telling how long that offer will be still live. So yeah. If you fancy some juicy returns, go get some. So today joining me is Andrew, our CEO and co-founder.
Hello.
Justin, our CFO and co-founder, and of course, Dom, our co-founder and chairman. Welcome, gents.
G'day, everyone.
Good to have you all here. It's been a while since we've had a chat like this. I think the last time we were all in Vietnam. So
yeah, it has. It's been a little while. It's lots going on, really. I think so much has changed, and even since February when we did our TGE when we were all in Vietnam. But yeah, it's just crazy times.
Yeah, it's a different pace of life in the Web3 space, and DePIN is no different. So I guess to kick things off, maybe we could talk about some of the stuff that we've been working on the last month and a bit. Some of it's been optimization, some of it's AI, around what we're doing with withdrawals and when that's going to happen. Yeah, I mean, I guess, Andrew, do you want to lead us off with the optimization side of things? Because that's been a huge
definitely. Yeah, so as much you know, we're currently integrated with 10 DePINs, and our range of DePINs spans everything from bandwidth sharing to GPU cycles to storage, and once we've hit that kind of I guess that magic 10 number, we've really taken, I guess, the last sort of 4 to 6 weeks to just focus on optimizing how those DePINs are running on the individual machines in order to maximize the returns. So that's really been a big part of our technical team's focus on the last sort of, as I said, 4 to 6 weeks. And whilst it's a super important part of the process, it's not always an obvious. These background tasks are always not always obvious to the kind of to the end user or to the front. So there is quite a lot going on in terms of optimization, and really that's been a massive focus for our technical team over the last month.
Yeah, it's like a duck on the pond. Everything looks very quiet and serene on top, but underneath it's kicking, paddling like crazy. And the optimizations have made a huge difference. I mean, just, I don't know, like obviously we're keeping an eye on data all the time. We're looking at what we're doing to kind of inform the decisions that we make. I recently had a conversation in our Discord community with one of our community members, actually a couple of them, where they were saying, why are you adding more DePINs, and why are you working on optimization? You should be working on withdrawals, which led to a kind of a sort of an academic debate about whether or not, what's more important in terms of priority. But I don't think people realize, like, we have quite a lot of data about like what types of specs of machine and operating systems and different network conditions and geographies can play a role as well. So do you want to talk at all about AIOS or AIOS and how much of a difference we're seeing just recently?
Yeah, I mean, really across not just AIOS, but many DePINs, we're seeing some really interesting trends. We're seeing very, I guess you call them sort of like local, geographically local opportunities. In some markets, like for example, we're seeing really great results out of New Zealand, Singapore, Austria, and they're really, I guess, interesting kind of opportunities where perhaps there, is the demand for the services that DePINs are contributing to, but perhaps not a massive local population that are actually providing the actual compute to those. So we're seeing, we're starting to see some really kind of interesting trends arise. Yeah.
Yeah. It's very interesting because we asked our community for questions, obviously, ahead of this episode. And, a lot of the questions, a common theme, I suppose, that kept coming up time and again is about like, how much can you make per node per month? Or if I ran the node for 100 days, how much can I make? And it's an obvious question because, we all want to know what we're getting into at the start. So we can properly evaluate whether it's worth our time. I mean, so I suppose this is more of a CFO type question, Justin, if you want to take it. But
Sure. So a couple of
yeah.
things. One is certainly since we started, we've been complementing the earnings with Ivelo tokens through an airdrop. So we're absolutely committed to making it worth people's time, irrespective of where they are or the type of machine. But they certainly need to be downloaded live, running the application and earning something, and then we can complement it. So Dom, do you want to pick up from there?
I mean, I think the thing is, I think one of the points of like, in terms of addressing like everybody with the earnings, it's a very individualized thing, right? Dom, do you want to talk about that?
Yes, yeah, certainly. We've certainly got some targets in mind in regards to what we'd like to see. We're on a journey. It's going to take us a little while to get there. We know some of our top users have been generating $50, $55 a month. Occasionally, some of them have generated $55 in a day. So, there's some of the edge cases right now. But I guess our long-term objective is really, if you're asking me for a range, and obviously this depends upon your machine and where you're physically located and your IP address, but anywhere from $10 to $200 a month would be a range that I think would be quite reasonable. And obviously, the lower on the end of the range would be a 10-year-old machine in a area where IP's addresses aren't as valuable. For example, and on the top end of the range, it would be you've got a really good GPU, you're contributing to training AI models, and obviously there's a lot of dollars flowing in the AI space at the moment. So that just gives everyone a bit of a range. Until we're able to comfortably achieve that, we will be continuing to provide airdrops out to our users as a way of augmenting the revenue. And this is not uncommon in DePINs. There's a concept called a cold start. And so you're basically starting to build the network from scratch, and you're using tokens as a way of incentivizing everyone. And the way it normally works is the incentives start up high, and as the network starts building, the actual rewards actually decrease because there's basically more users and more revenue there, and that's typically how a lot of the DePINs operate in the space. But hopefully that answers your question, Neil, about the ranges, the revenue ranges.
Yeah, 100%. And actually, seeing as we're talking about stuff that we're working on and where we're going with things, do you want to walk us through the AI side of Ivelo? And obviously, it's something that we're thinking about. It's not for the people in our community who are very focused on when withdrawals will be live on Ivelo. That is also something that's very important to us. But just because we mentioned AI, I think it's worth having a little look at what it is exactly that we're planning to do. Do you want me to share that slide, Dom, and you can walk us through it?
Absolutely. So we've started, and without wanting to get too technical, we've started building our own data cube, basically a model that allows us to, technically called a deep learning model, but in effect, what we're doing is we're collecting data, both on-chain data as well as off-chain data. And what I mean by off-chain data is, the 50,000 odd Havelo nodes are all generating a lot of data around how much they're earning, what's the spec of the machine, what country they're in. And so we're going to be able to take all of this data and then over time, being able to optimize the best DPINs to run on your particular machine to maximize the ROI. As Andrew said, we've got 10 DPINs integrated to date. So AI is not going to make a major difference today. But in the future, once we've got 40, 50, 100 DPINs integrated, then AI will play a really important role in basically automating the optimization of the best DPINs to maximize that ROI. And that's really part of the value proposition that Havelo provides. Other than it's easy to use, ultimately it's going to be able to optimize for consumers on an individual by individual basis. And there's no way a human will be able to run 100 DPINs themselves and then work out, these are the best 10 to run, because as soon as they've done that exercise, the economics will change in certain DPINs, and then you need to flip out old DPINs and add in some new DPINs. And so this is really a way that we're going to be able to really extract as much revenue for our customers as possible. And ultimately, we've got a vested interest in making that happen, because part of the Havelo model is the software is free, but we will be taking a revenue share, and Neil will be talking more about that shortly.
Yeah, I think that's the key to kind of one of the value propositions, I suppose, of what we're doing is that you're not going to need, like, if you actually think about the logistical challenges of trying to figure out, like, we have a team that figure out like which DPINs are probably going to be the most profitable. Like Dom said, the economic model changes so much that by the time you figured it out, it's different than it was when you started the math. So thanks for that, Dom. I think that kind of speaks as well to some of the questions that we got were around, what are we doing to actively make it as profitable as possible for users? And I think that kind of answers that as well. Obviously, the optimization of the DPINs we already have, that's presumably going to be an ongoing process. And and then once we add AI and more DPINs, all of those equate to a much more profitable experience over time. So just to summarize that, what's the amount Havelo takes from our node from DePIN earnings? Last time, this is a question from the community. Last time someone said nothing for this time. Not sure for now how Havelo has been surviving till today. Looking for more answers on this one. Sort of a interesting take. Thank you for that.
That is a great question.
I can jump in if you like.
Cool.
So we set a threshold where we didn't, similarly to the withdrawals, which I think that question's coming later, we can't withdraw until reach a certain amount, and similarly, Havelo will not take its fee until the user has earned a suitable amount. So we certainly want it to be meaningful for the users. So Havelo has survived to date based on, and this was all budgeted and all planned, and certainly we understood the time it would take to integrate DPINs and for the earnings to come up. So Havelo raised capital from VCs, an amazing and supportive list of VCs on our cap table, and it's through that funding that we are able to continue through the cold start period until the earnings reaches the critical mass.
Cool. So exactly. And our model is free for now, and we will begin to take a percentage of earnings, as Justin said. So, again, all the incentives are actually aligned. That's one of the great things about Havelo. It's one of the reasons I was excited get involved early on.
What I can add further is, speaking about incentives, is that the more the user is engaged and points and involvement and staking, the higher, the lower the Hivelo fee. So that's the beauty of the Hivelo token, is that we're able to encourage all of the good actors and supportive community members that are contributing to the strength of the DePIN and Hivelo ecosystem.
Right. Yeah, and actually, I think it's worth having taking a minute in the conversation to discuss how, over time, our own token as airdrop is designed obviously it has kind of two purposes, as I understand it. One is obviously to make it worthwhile while we're in beta, and as we add DePINs and we make them more profitable and add more DePINs, especially where some of the DePINs aren't themselves producing that much revenue for users. But the other part of it is to incentivize the types of behavior that we want to see on the network. Andrew, do you want to talk a little bit about what our plans are there for the future? Because I know you and I have talked about this before.
Certainly.
Add aspects to the airdrop that give certain types of behavior more points, etc.
No, definitely. Look, we have a really extensive roadmap for our token, and at the moment, as you mentioned, it's a part of the flywheel, I guess, or the cold start, as Dominic says, to incentivize people to come onto the network and to contribute their resources where there might not be the optimal kind of revenue opportunities at the moment. But what we as a project and as a company want to see is, we want to disincentivize the bad actors and to incentivize the good actors. And what I mean by that is, our project is about contributing your actual physical compute that you have yourself, and not trying to game it by creating virtual machines and whatnot. We want to encourage people to treat this like any other revenue opportunity, like it's their own business, and by that I mean to stay online as much as you possibly can, to maintain the node, keep it up to date, keep the latest version always running of the Hivelo node, and those are the kind of just without going into too much detail, but those are the kind of those are the kind of traits that we want to reward our users with, those that are actually keeping to those principles.
Right. And I think there's an important point there that it seems to be a confusing issue in the community about well, I was told I can't run on multiple machines, and I can run on multiple machines, and well, I'm a bad actor because I had it on two PCs or whatever. I think there's a little bit of confusion around that. And, I think maybe it would behoove us to provide some clarity there. I don't know who wants to jump in and take that, but
I'm happy to take that one.
Yeah, sure.
Look, I can understand the confusion, and it's I guess it comes down to your definition of a machine, whether I have two machines or I have two machines. Which is which. No, there's definitely no problems running Hivelo on multiple machines. That is physical hardware that you own. What we see is people renting let's say a server in a data center, and then divvying that up into 20 different virtual machines, and then trying to game the system by earning points on all 20 of those virtual machines running on the same server, and that's what we don't want to see. And we've removed devices from our network, and we continue to remove devices from our network that are kind of partaking in this kind of behavior. And we have seen a little bit of pushback from some who didn't think that it was fair. But at the end of the day, we want to keep the rewards for our users that are long-term users, are actively contributing, or are doing the right thing. And I don't have any qualms telling someone to leave that is actively not doing the right thing.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the whole goal is to contribute resources to decentralized networks. If you're not actually contributing resources and you're just trying to pump your airdrop essentially, then obviously we're not going to reward that behavior. And typically
Well, there's
those
plenty of
people in the community giving out,
there's plenty of casinos on Solana, so go and play with those instead if you want to go play games.
Yeah. Cool. Dom dropped out. I think he's having internet issues. Oh, he's back. You're back. Okay. So I guess we can jump into some questions from the community if you guys are okay with that. And we'll just breeze past them. If we've dealt with the answer, I'll just kind of breeze past. But to start us off, taking a bit of a change of tack into the token and the economics there and value. Obviously, we kind of, I suppose the token is a very, very important part of the ecosystem, but at the same time, just for everybody who's listening's benefit, we are somewhat constrained in what we can say. Price is not something that we, are actively trying to promote. It's something that will take care of itself by us building a great project where the token is as integral to the functioning of the ecosystem as it is for Havelo. But with all that said, somebody has asked, can you talk about any proactive measures being done to help the token value? Are any of the following planned: token buyback and burn, extending vesting schedules, listings on other exchanges? We're not going to talk about that, or increasing liquidity. So who wants to jump in on that one?
I'm happy to start that particular process. Obviously, the token's gone through a bit of a rough ride. There are certain things that I can't say, but what I will say is that we had a little bit of a pop in the first 5 minutes, and then I'm just best I won't say it for a number of reasons. We then had as some of you remember, we had a rug check warning on CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko. And for those that are not aware, rug check was made for meme coins, not for bona fide projects. And only about 2 weeks ago did that actually finally get removed. And that was obviously a major impediment from anyone buying because, as we know, CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko are really the two major Bibles that people go to when they're looking to buy a coin. So that's basically done. We're now starting to go out there and actually promote the token out to the community, as well as to a number of investors. I personally, as I've said on my Twitter, on my X account, I've bought, I think, about 20 million tokens, and I've staked them all. And I'll continue to stake and restake them, purely because I'm a big believer of the Havelo project. And at the same time, we don't have any plans to list on any new exchanges. We're on Gate, MEXC, and Radium right now. The cost to list on some of the big tier ones, we're talking close to $1 million, and that's just frankly ridiculous in my personal view. However, having said that, we do have a big announcement coming next week, and all I'll say is it's with a company called Banksa. Banksa's been around for 10 years. In fact, both Andrew and I co-founded Banksa. I can't tell you exactly what it is yet because we haven't formally announced it, but what I will say is there's some really good news, and I think it will actually help create some further momentum in the token. So watch your space for next week.
Just personal curiosity, is the reason we can't say anything about it now because Banks is a publicly limited company and they have a lot of rules, and is that
correct?
The main reason? Okay.
Correct. Yeah, but Banks is a public company, and so all I can say is we're working on a deal that will actually help our token. But You just have to wait for the details next week, as there will be an announcement from both parties with regards to it.
Awesome. Yeah, it's exciting. I know what it is, so I'm excited. It says, somebody asked the question here, but I don't know. Like, I feel like they don't really understand how things work. So maybe we can jump into the mechanics of how the Havelo reward system works. But I'll ask the question, and then you guys can, someone can put their hand up if you want. If we're getting paid by a single token, will Havelo be able to lock token value, whatever the token price is, to USDC at the end of the day? If we aren't able to take out our earnings on a daily basis for the other nodes, I'm not sure about Havelo points. Hopefully you guys will explain this too. So sounds like they think that all of the mined tokens are going to get turned into HVLO, and then they're concerned about the volatility of HVLO. Does someone want to set the record straight?
That's a good question. I think sorry, do you mind just one more time, just to reread it? I want to make sure, because the devil's in the details with these things.
Yeah, so I think what they're asking is, they seem to think that that their income is going to be paid out in a single token, and the question is whether or not that's going to be locked to USDC. So my joining the dots there is, I think HVLO is the single token that everything is going to be converted into before they can withdraw it as a reward. So I think maybe it makes more sense if we talk, and actually this is probably a perfect time to talk about how the reward system works, when kind of what we're doing as far as withdrawals goes, and the wallet and all those kinds of things. So if you guys want to, maybe wants to handle that, or I can take it.
Yeah, look, I think the short answer, and I apologize if I didn't completely understand the nuances of the question, but I think the short answer is that it won't be locked on a daily basis, and there's many reasons for that. I mean, if you were to let's say lock the value of Nisana against USDC, or Nisana against Havelo, we'd be paying, you'd be essentially trading every single day. So that's 30 trades across the month, 30 potential transactions, gas, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if I've got that correct, no matter which kind of mechanism, which token that you withdraw in, that conversion will happen at that point in time, not on a daily basis. I think that's probably part of that kind of nuance. Dom looks like he wants to jump in there.
But just to be sort of reiterate, because there may be some newbies on this call. Basically, the way that Havelo works is you install the software. You will run, Havelo will work out what are the best DePINs to run. If you're running, let's call it 5 different DePINs on your computer, when withdrawals are active, you're going to be able to withdraw 5 different DePIN tokens, as well as the Havelo token. So just to be super clear, so that way, there's no need for us to convert the DePIN tokens into the Havelo token or anything like that. You're just going to be able to download, withdraw the tokens that you've mined on your computer. If there is demand from our user base, from our community, we could look at doing something where we take those DePIN tokens and convert it into Havelo, which then allows them to stake for a yield. That's something that I think we would be open to as an organization. I don't think we're there yet. I know on Discord there have been a couple of people who have actually asked for this. And frankly, I don't think it's something that we need to make a decision on right now, but the model has always been, you're right, you mine 5, you mine 10 different DePIN tokens, you can withdraw them once you've achieved a certain level, and that just purely because there are gas fees associated with transactions, and you don't want gas eating up, your withdrawal. So that's basically how we're expecting it to work in the future. We've also said that we will allow customers in the future to take, let's call it the 10 different DePIN tokens that they're mining, and convert it into a stable coin or into cash, And this is where we would use a third-party company, like a Banksa, to do something similar to the conversion and the settlement to a fiat bank account or to a credit card. But we're not there yet. We're crawl before we walk. But ultimately, we'd love to hear from the community on X and on Discord if they've got a particular view on how they would like that converted. We're very open for feedback from the community.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Dom. That explains it. Did you want to add something, Andrew? You look.
Yeah, I just had this, I was just thinking of this once again. If I did understand the question correctly, of fixing a value per day, it's like dollar cost averaging, but for DePIN, it's like DePIN dollar cost
Doesn't make
averaging.
any
It's like
sense.
dollar cost averaging squared. It's like
Yeah.
DePIN. Yeah, that's a fantastic product. That's a great idea. Excellent. Thank you for that, contributor. Even if it wasn't their purpose, I like it.
Yeah, all right. Grant, so if we spin off DePIN Squared is a spin-off company from Havelo. There you go in future person. So yeah, I think that explains it. I think, like Dom said, we've got to learn how to crawl before we walk. So yeah, that's a little bit further down the road where you can convert whatever you've mined into money in your bank account, but it is definitely on the roadmap because we're trying to make DePIN radically simple. And I mean, radically simple means that, so simple that your granny could use it, or your granddad, not to be sexist. So one of the questions, so I guess, well, I think that kind of covers the token economics, unless, Dom, you want to talk about buyback and burn, which isn't something that we talked about yet, but is something that's on the roadmap. I don't know the degree to which we want to jump into details here, but it's up to you if you want to, what you want to say in terms of detail.
I know there was a couple of questions around buyback and burn. That is absolutely part of our sort of focus over the next couple of quarters. I think you're going to start seeing us do this. The way it's going to work is that we're going to take a percentage of our revenue, and that percentage will be arbitrary. Maybe over time we can talk about it in a bit more detail, but it's going to be a small percentage, basically a single-digit percentage of our revenue, and then we'll be buying the token on market and burning it. And obviously, as Havelo grows and as our revenues increase, those burns will actually become larger and larger. I would expect us to do our first burn sometime this quarter, and it's going to be small. We're going to start small, but these things, as you know, you only need to look at some of the other big DePIN projects out there. They started small, and now they're burning tens of thousands of dollars every quarter of tokens, which obviously compresses the supply, deflationary for everyone out there. So that we're looking at doing the same thing. We're going to start small, and very much appreciate people's questions when it comes to burning and buying.
Yeah, and I mean, to highlight one of the points made earlier, we're not as of yet taking revenue, so that's something we have to change as well prior to being able to tap into that to buy back and burn. So lots of things are going to be happening, I think, in the tail end of this quarter, next quarter. Alrighty, thank you, Dom. Let's see, what UI improvements are planned to give more transparency on how Havelo is performing on my machine? I think that probably refers to, like we're in beta at the moment, so every release we improve, except for the odd time in the past there's been a bug here and there where it's caused problems for a subset of users. I think that's fairly normal in beta software development. Certainly it's a common theme in all of the projects I've worked on to date. Are we planning to? But it does raise an interesting question, which is around the balance between making something like radically simple and giving people access to see absolutely every nook and cranny of what's happening under the hood. So maybe we could talk a little bit about how we feel about that. Andrew, maybe that feels like it'd be a question for your
Sure. I mean,
perspective.
yeah, it's one of the, I guess one of the uh, I guess core principles about technology that a lot of I guess we could call them normies. We want to use the word normies. That understand is that it's and it sounds very ironic, but it is extremely difficult to make a simple product,
Yeah.
and that's why for us, yeah, as I mentioned before, we just hit 10 integrated DePINs. Each one of those DePINs has their own nuance, all kinds of weird and wonderful things. Some want you to stay online 24/7. Others you're allowed to kind of be more casual and contribute when you can, and then go offline when you like. And if you can imagine, if you're designing a user interface with 10 of those DePINs with all of those different rules and nuances, it just becomes real. It becomes a mess essentially. You'll start seeing literally conflicting messages like stay online, don't stay online. So for us, it really is uh, one of the most challenging parts of what we're doing on the front side of our product is to decide, do we tell, do we put this information there so the user is fully informed, or do we, put it into a menu somewhere else, or do we leave it out in its entirety? And for us, I think right now our focus is on adding the additional features into the user interface. So we're talking about, upcoming, we're talking about withdrawals. And we're prioritizing those over, say, a bunch of metrics about how your current system is performing. That's really where we're at in terms of the user interface, and that's because we do recognize, whilst we add more DePINs in the background and we can continue adding more DePINs, there's still bits of functionality that's missing from the front end that we need to implement, such as withdrawals. And once we've, I guess, completed that loop, then we can start to look at the enhancements and improvements that we can make to enhance that experience for the user.
Okay, great. Thank you, Andrew. Yeah, I mean, the most simple solution would be to have install this and then just watch the money go into your bank account and never look at anything at all, which would be perfectly acceptable for a lot of people in the. And again, I apologize for the term, but the normie bucket of user type. But of course, Web3 natives are all about the details. So
it's not even the details. They're just really interested in the projects and really want to know more about how their computer or their computer is actually contributing to those projects. So it really is I think a testament to our users that are actually interested in the underlying technology. They're not just here for a quick dollar. They really want to know more and more. And so I can't really fault them looking at it from that kind of angle.
Yeah, absolutely. Engaged community is the way we like it. 100%. So there's questions here about the upcoming DePINs that are going to be added to Havelo. I don't think we should probably talk about that. I'm not sure if we can talk about that ahead of time. There are upcoming DePINs. There's people who are on our team whose job it is to look at the different aspects of the various DePINs that we have in the queue and figure out which ones are the most suitable, etc. So that is an ongoing process. There will be more DePINs, obviously. It's kind of, I suppose it's an important part of the aggregator label. So beyond that, so there's some kind of less serious, more fun questions, I suppose, which we could jump into. Actually, maybe before we do that, just let's talk about the roadmap for withdrawals, because it's a thing that's come up time and time again, and yeah, it's something that I feel like we should kind of share. Basically, my understanding is at the moment that the first phase, this is something that's going to be phased. This is new information. We haven't shared this with our community as of yet, but this is something that's going to be phased. The first phase will be obviously a wallet where people can see all of the different tokens, and bearing in mind that the tokens are potentially on different chains. So it's not as simple as just plugging in an Ethereum wallet, for example, or a Optimism wallet or a Solana wallet. It could potentially need to be a bunch of
Makes
wallets.
it very difficult.
Together. Yeah. And then the next stage after that is obviously to be able to withdraw the assets as they are. So just withdraw Ethereum and trade it on a DEX or do whatever you want to do with it. Hold it in cold storage if you like. And then after that, we'll go to USD stable withdrawal, like a convert. At some point, there'll be a convert to Havelo probably in there as well. And then finally, I think the last stage, if I understand things correctly, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but the last phase of that whole process would be to be able to just withdraw it straight to your bank account. So we're probably a little bit far out from that. But is that correct?
Yeah, look, we're looking at how we can, let's say, shortcut that last option to fiat as much as possible. I'm really, I guess, keen to hear from our users where the demand is in terms of withdrawals. Which combinations are people interested in? Do you want the native tokens of all the different DePINs? Do you want a stable coin that's converted from what you've earned? Do you want a Velo token? I think I'd really love to hear feedback.
Yeah, maybe we'll run some polls in the community about that kind of thing and see. Krishna, you can add that to your to-do list. All right. Let's see. Fun questions then in that case. How do you like/enjoy your coffee? Well, I know Dom travels with a suitcase of coffee when he travels, and he's always on a plane. So he could be the spokesman for an espresso, I think. And I'm literally like, by IV is how I like my coffee. The rest of you guys?
I'm espresso. I used to be, I guess in Australia we call it a long black, but I think around the rest of the world it's an Americano. But after I left Australia, I switched to espresso because I just found the coffee pretty much everywhere else around the world. Perhaps maybe not to like Italy and maybe Colombia or somewhere like that. It's just too weak. So yeah, I switched to espresso, and then now it's a double espresso. So I much
Vietnamese.
to the shock. So yeah, well, Vietnamese is probably one of the other destinations. Yeah, Vietnamese for those. Yeah, Vietnam has been a very interesting coffee journey for me. For those who don't know, Vietnam, I think, is now the second or third largest producer of coffee in the world, which is just insane because that was something I never knew. But unlike every other coffee destination around the world, like so say Colombia or Indonesia or they consume their own products. They're consuming it all themselves, and it just blows me away every day. So the coffee, really does hit quite strong here. But yeah, still espresso. That's for me. Sorry, Justin, I took your time.
Well, I'm hope we're not going to lose viewers from my answer, and certainly the name of this show didn't come from me because I don't drink coffee, and had the privilege of having Dominic in Toronto for consensus, and gave him my drink, which is a turmeric latte. So,
Wow, that's a very
Dominic's
Australian name.
a coffee aficionado, and giving him a turmeric latte was probably a bit sacrilegious, but he pretended to like it.
No, it was actually it was fantastic. Just exactly what I needed before a long flight.
Very good.
Yeah.
So there's a question here: where would Havelo want to host an in real life meetup in the future?
Well, actually, we're going to be, Dom and I will be at the Solana Summit here in Da Nang, in Vietnam, starting on the 5th of June. So I'm not sure if there's any of our audience that are going to be coming along to that. I think it's going to be a really great event. I think much, I guess, much smaller than, say, one of the big conferences like, Consensus or Token 2049. But it's on the beach in Da Nang in Vietnam. It's going to be a really good event. I'm really looking forward to it, and I've seen the schedule of demos and workshops and talks, and Dom is doing a session. I'm doing a session as well. There's the Saturday has been dedicated just to DePIN. It's the DePIN Summit in Da Nang. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. So if you're listening and you're coming on to that, it's also free. The full 3 days are free to go. Just got to register to get a ticket. But please, if you see us there, come along and say hello.
Yeah, it's not often you get anything for free in this space. So yeah, that's going to be an awesome one. And Da Nang is absolutely one of my favorite cities, having spent 7 years traveling all over the world. I just love it there. I think if we did do like a proper Havelo party or something, or some sort of special event for our long-term hive runners or ambassadors or something, and community who wanted to attend, I think it would definitely either be Da Nang or Amsterdam. It would have to be, I think, because they're kind of the centers for our various kind of team. All right, we're coming near the top of the hour. I'm just going to have a look in the main chat to see if there's any really good questions, because we should probably dig into those if there is. Somebody asked something. I have a question regarding here. I'm going to put it up on the screen. Oh, there we go. I have a question regarding one of the nodes, Nasana. It doesn't run 24/7. It runs at certain periods. When that happens, it takes up all of my computer resources and slows down or lags, which is affecting my work. Okay, my PC is Win 11 RTX 4060. Funny, I wouldn't have thought it would run on a 4060 RTX. That's a Radeon card, right?
No, it's NVIDIA. It's NVIDIA. Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting. It says that I created a ticket and received one. Okay. Ismail, I'm going to reach out to you direct and try and work out if we can help you out there.
It's a
Tricia,
good one.
if you wouldn't mind just grabbing the contact details for me and putting us in touch, and I'm happy to sort it out for you, Ismail.
Yeah, but at the same time, just to be clear, the way Nasana works is, my understanding is that it's live, but then when you get a job, that's where you basically you're earning money, and there could be a slowdown of your particular machine. So unlike others which are online 24/7, Nasana is basically a sort of a job by job basis. Would that be correct? Why his machine would be slowing down a bit?
It's possible, yeah. I mean, it does, as you say, it works on a job basis. So you might be working for 20 minutes and then have a 3-hour wait until the next job comes in, and it's probably more than likely. But I'm happy to have a look and make sure everything is going okay. And if not, maybe there's alerting for us as well, how we can make it run smoothly for everybody.
Alrighty. I think that's pretty much it from the questions. Just somebody says, related, I'll just share this one. Related to UI, if a DePIN requires 95% uptime, is there a way in the UI to know in the last month I had 93% uptime or something like that? Yeah, that's, again, that comes back to the question.
Great question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really comes back to, I think, like, just from a user behavior perspective and for your own benefit, probably the best thing is to try and keep it up as much as possible. But you know, if it's 93%, 95%, I don't think, is there any DePINs that require 95% uptime? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Sorry,
yeah, I was just thinking we have two metrics. One is the longest streak that you've had of uptime, and another, we do actually show the uptime of your node, but we show it in minutes, not in percentage. And you know, that's a nice learning for us. Maybe percentage is more effective than, you know, minutes. It's a good
yeah,
good
presumably
bit of info. Yeah.
Yeah, presumably that's a doable equation to add to the.
Dom and I were just at Consensus Toronto, and I met up with the founder of Storage, and he did advise that that the benchmark is 98% uptime for Storage. So I think that is a great KPI for us to include on our dashboard.
So maybe we just, if we have a minute to talk about that, what happens, for example, in the Storage or other DePINs where they have a minimum threshold? Like, maybe, you know, it'll be educational for people to understand what actually happens in the background and why uptime is so important.
I can say that his advice was it's binary, and if you do not meet the threshold, there are continuous audits happening from the Storage, and we're not dependent on any one DePIN, so we will always look for the DePINs that will deliver the maximum rewards for our users. But Storage is already integrated, and so it might only apply to a certain subset of users. So if it doesn't apply to you because you have a laptop and you shut the laptop on a regular basis, don't worry, we'll find, and we are finding DePINs that will suit your need. But Storage is one of the stricter ones, where if you don't meet that uptime during that audit, you will get zero earnings from Storage.
So they just don't give you jobs, or they just don't give you, they just turn off your node essentially. They won't use you for storing
exactly
they're trying to have stored.
Right, you can keep trying and you start again. So you need, the way you earn with Storage is it's exponential. You start to store, and then the more you store, the more you accrue, and then you are in the runnings. And it can take you 3 months to get up to $3 a month once you've proved yourself and built up the storage. But if you've gone offline for 48 hours, and if your average uptime between the audits is less than 98%, you won't be earning.
All right. Well, I think that kind of brings us to the end of our show today. I know Andrew and Dom have to jump off to another call. So, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us and sharing your wisdom and your insights. I think it's been great. It's been a great chat. I hope that our community, we've answered in broad strokes most of what was asked. So, yeah, Krishna, our community lead, and we'll be in touch to the people who have asked the best questions, because we had a little community incentive program for asking questions. So he will deal with that after the show. Thank you, gentlemen. Until next week.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Bye.
Neil. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye, everyone.